What's good, YouTube? It's me, your boy Squiddy, back in another Squiddy. Gonna do a weird video this time, a little bit different format, but I want to talk to you guys about 5 things you absolutely must do if you want to top a major event, whether that's a YCS or a regional or whatever the heck it is. If you want to do well at a major event, this is what you have to do. Starting at number 1, the first thing that you absolutely have to do is have food. Why is food important? Well, a lot of people even say, oh, I do good at a tournament, I didn't eat at all. That's all anecdotal evidence, okay? Food is absolutely needed. You need all of the calories, you need the protein, you need the carbs, you need the energy in order to function, especially at a major event. Regionals, YCS, these are multiple day events that span over 10 hours. Sometimes you're up at the crack of dawn around 8 a.m. Sometimes you skip breakfast and then you're there until like almost midnight until day 1 is over. And that is just not okay. You have to bring snacks with you. The biggest things that I love to pack are little bars, fruits. You can bring like bananas, apples, little things that won't get lost in your bag. You can pick these up at any CVS or pharmacy nearby your hotel or near the convention hall. So make sure that you prepare for this. This is what you guys should be doing on the day before you arrive at the major event. So whether that's a Thursday or possibly Friday, and just get stocked up on this for everyone in the Airbnb or the hotel room, because it's absolutely crucial that you guys are constantly snacking throughout the day in order to be at your peak mental level, because when you're not playing at your mental level, you're going to misplay. Other things are sugars. You have to bring some kind of things that make you a little salivate a little bit because it's so dry at the actual event. So it's important that you guys bring some sugar options like candy or like anything to kind of get you to salivate and get you a little bit of boost of energy right when you need it, when you're starting to crash and burn at the end of the day. Water is also important, to add on to the first point. You guys have to bring water. It's absolutely essential, and I would definitely recommend that you guys actually get like these 2-liter jugs of water, which you can pick up again at the CVS. And you can do something really cool with this. You don't have to bring it around because it's really heavy. You can just hide it somewhere like behind a garbage can, or like if you're at the VIP tables, just hide it under a table. No one's gonna steal this. Like just hide it somewhere where no one's gonna mistake it as garbage and throw it out, because it's very, very important that you constantly refuel with water. You're going to get dehydrated from all of the talking, the thinking, and the fact that it's like a dry, humid environment. It doesn't really do well when you don't have water, so it's absolutely crucial that you're well hydrated. And another thing is electrolytes. You can't just rely on water, guys. You have to have electrolytes, whether that's salt or if you have a Gatorade or something or access to one. I would definitely pick one up. You can also hide this somewhere like behind a garbage or something so no one finds it, and then just come to your station and pick it up later so you can drink it halfway throughout the day is ideal so you don't crash and burn. These are really, really existential to give you that boost of energy and also give you that momentum boost, as well as refueling your electrolytes so you are well lubricated and you're able to make your plays with minimum decision making and no misplays. It's very, very tense environment. It's easy to misplay, and we have to be at our peak physical and mental state, and these things help it. Number 2, bathrooms. The bathrooms at the convention centers for Yu-Gi-Oh players, I don't know if you guys know about Yu-Gi-Oh players, but they're disgusting. You guys are absolutely disgusting. You guys are filthy, and the bathrooms within the first 15 minutes of any event get absolutely destroyed. Now, here's a life hack that you guys absolutely have to know in order to optimize going to the bathroom. Go upstairs in the convention hall, or leave the Yu-Gi-Oh hall and go far away until you can find another bathroom that's open, because it will likely be empty and it will be clean, so you can take your whatever you have to do in peace and quiet and cleanliness. And it's absolutely important that you guys do number 2 on the morning of the actual event, because you do not want to have to go mid-match. That will not be good for you. You will be taking a game loss at the very least if you have to go and you cannot hold it in anymore. Also, it's a lot better to feel lighter at the beginning of the day, so make sure that you guys find these clean bathrooms that are at the end of the convention hall or the second floor. These convention halls are huge, guys. Like, this is the second floor of the Vancouver Convention Hall, for example. Look at how many bathrooms there are. Like, there's so many different bathrooms on different floors, and you will be able to find a free one that you can go to, safe and sanitary. So make sure that you guys are not going to the dirty Yu-Gi-Oh player bathrooms where it's dirty, and also there's a huge lineup to use the actual toilets. So make sure that you guys are accustomed to the actual layout of the convention hall and that you can find somewhere peace and quiet. Ideally, this is probably something that you would like to see, with no one here, clean, sanitary, and you can do whatever business you have to do. Next is back to the point of snacks. You have to bring a lunch, okay? Not all of the events will have lunch breaks. In fact, they rarely ever do. And if there's no lunch break, you're kind of confined to the actual convention hall, where you either have to go to the convention hall stands and get ugly, expensive, overpriced, yucky food like salty hot dogs that are maximum salt. The convention hall concessions will have long lineups that you have to wait almost an hour for just to get food, meaning that you're probably not going to have time, especially if your duel is going over. So if your duel is taking the time, you're not going to be able to eat all day unless you literally have a friend that scrubbed out early and can bring you food, which is very rare. So make sure you guys pack something like a sandwich. Also, what you should do is take a look at Google Maps on the day of to see what food options are around you, because this is another possibility. So if there is a lunch break, you can duck out of the hall and find somewhere around that's a little further that won't have a long line and will be actual good food and not concession food, and will be a lot cheaper than paying like $12 for a hot dog. So that's just one thing to consider. Concession food, again, maximum salt, guys. You will not be able to drink enough water to manage. And also there's going to be a huge line like we just discussed. And the condiments are often empty as well. Next point, you should be talking to your opponents. This is the biggest thing that I see people fail to do. Anytime I sit down at a YCS, not only is it just polite and courteous to be nice, you know, talk to them, chat with them, ask them what their name is, ask them where they're from, maybe shake hands. But the next thing is you can actually gain a lot of information from socializing with your opponent. First and foremost, you can find out based on where they're from, if they're a really competitive player or if they're maybe a local player that is more newer to the game. For example, if a player flew from across California to get to Chicago, chances are they're probably a competitive player because they invested the time and effort and the money into traveling that far across the country to go to an event. Whereas if it's a player that said he just drove down from 20 minutes, he might not be the most competitive. He just happened to be there. It happened to be in the backyard, the YCS of his backyard, and then he just showed up and rolled up and decided to play, right? So it's very important. Also recognizing patterns in what your opponent is using, the gear that they're using. If they're playing on a Spellground playmat, maybe they're more competitive from what I've found, because, you know, certain players actually have this style to play with a Spellground. If they have a calculator case and like pen and paper and everything's dice and all organized and ready, they're probably a more competitive player that took the time to invest in a graphing calculator, because for some reason that seems to be a Yu-Gi-Oh thing. Shout out, I guess, to the old school players from Team Odyssey who actually innovated that. And if they're using like a World Spellground, they're probably a really competitive player. Whereas if they're using like a Weebu homemade playmat, they're probably not that competitive, or a paper mat, then they're probably definitely not competitive. Or they could be trying to throw you off, but chances are they're probably not that competitive. So reading what your opponent is using, reading their mannerisms, socializing with them, asking them about the game, how long they played, will give you a lot of resources, a lot of advantage, because when you make your plays, you could read them and read them better like a book, determine whether or not they have ham traps concealed. For example, if a good player has Nibiru, they might not look at their hand, they might not be thinking and then nib you at the last possible moment because they know how your deck functions and they know where to nib, whereas a newer player might be looking at their hand and thinking constantly upon every play after the 5th summon. So little things like that, you have to read and gauge your opponent if they're good or not, if they're going to be forgetting their trigger effects, stuff like that, so you can make your plays accordingly. Also, things like their sleeves. Like if they have dirty sleeves, greasy sleeves that haven't been changed forever, you should probably call a judge to get them re-sleeved. But beyond that, they could be just a kitchen table player that just never replaces their sleeves. So yeah, I even saw a guy on Reddit that said he washes his sleeves every time. And I was just like, what? Next point. Your phone should be at 100% on the morning of. I hate seeing when players have literally 2% battery and they cannot contact their friends. They cannot go on online pairings, and they cannot get updates on anything related to the game. You can actually get a lot of things with your phone by watching previous round feature matches to see what players are playing, looking at popular players' social medias to get an aspect of what they're playing, and also having access to data is really important so you can do all of these things and also contact your friends. There's nothing worse than going to an event not having data, especially if it's in a different country. For those Canadians that are going to the States, if you're too cheap to pay $12 a day to activate your in Canada data plan so it's usable in the States, then you're going to have a problem because you're not going to be able to find your friends and family, and you're not going to be able to access the Konami tournament pairings online. I know this system is really bad. Okay, now I know Konami always messes this up and the site breaks and you're not able to check pairings, but they end up fixing it generally for a couple of rounds, so you will be able to look from the comfort of your own phone without having to walk literally 1,000 steps across the entire convention hall to get to the one place that they post the paper pairings, and then also have a huge crowd in front of the paper pairings that you have to try and squeeze through. It's absolutely crazy just to see the paper pairings. And then I've had instances where I look at the paper pairings, I'm like, okay, I'm at this table. I walk halfway across the convention hall, and then I forget which table I'm at, and I'm like, what the heck? I have to go back all the way to look to see where my pairing is. Whereas if you had it on your phone on the Konami tournament pairings, you could just look it up instantly, not have to waste precious energy walking across the hall, and then get to your seat first. This is very important because you're going to be able to see where the timer is. Generally, the timers for the countdowns for the rounds are really poorly positioned by Konami, so they're generally more visible on one side than the other. So you want to get to the seat first so you can see exactly where that timer is, so you don't have to be on the bad seat and turn around every time to look at the timer. Again, there are a lot of people at OICS, so you do not want to get caught in the claustrophobic of the actual paper pairings. It's absolutely awful, and you will learn that you need your phone. So make sure your phone is charged, make sure there's data, and make sure that you have access to your phone reception, because this is a one key ingredient that you will need in the course of the tournament between the rounds. That's about all I had actually for this video. If you guys have any things I missed, let me know in the comments below. This is kind of funny because I know a lot of players don't actually talk about these things, but these things will make your quality of life a lot easier when you go to a major event, and it applies at all levels. So YCS, even regionals, certain regionals are massive and held in convention halls, like the SoCal regionals, which get over 1,000 people just for regionals. So these are good things to know, especially if you're going for your first event. Other than that, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for tuning in.